Dwayne here, PhoenixTypewriter.com. We're going to take apart this Smith Corona cornet because the spacebar is out of whack here. It's out of its brackets and I can't, get it in. You have to take this cover off here to get access better to the mounts. To get this cover off, you have to take this cover off here. So there's a couple screws on this cover. Under here, there's one right there. Pull this camera back a little bit. And so there's one up in here, right there. Of course, on the other side too, right there. And you can get those, straight like this if you wanted to, but it's kind of hard to see in there. So I usually flip it on its back, but when you do that, the lid wants to shut. So just stuff something in here, maybe like that, and then you can put this on its back, and it won't shut on you. And let me get this light out of the way, move the camera up and out, and we'll be able to see these screws a little better. There's one right there. So, unscrew that. Get that screw, save it, don't lose it. There's another one. Plug this thing. Another one right there. Out. So this only has one screw on each side, but it's got a little bracket here that's got a little pin on one side and then the screw on the other side there. So it's a little tricky to get back in place when this lid moves out of the way. You see there's a little, get this, move this towel out of the way. This little bracket's got a little pin on it on one side and then the screw hole on the other side, and it flops around. It sits behind this metal piece here. So that's the two screws. Then you've got to move the carriage out of the way so the arms out of the way of the lid. Under here there's just a couple slide brackets that if you push this in, when it's up in about this position here, it will come out of the bracket there. So inside of this rail there's a bracket that holds this, and same thing on the other side. I'm just going to manipulate it out like that and like that. So it's got a little slot. It runs into a piece on both sides, so when you put it back in there, it's just got to be, you got to find those slots, and once you find those, so we can move this out of the way, like that, put that back down in that position, and then there's a couple screws on each side of this to take the this portion off, this lid. So this has a screw and a washer. Just take it all the way out, it's probably best. Same thing on this side. Screw in a washer right there. Comes out just like that. And this lid will come off now. Pretty easy. There's just a couple little pivots right here and here, but it pretty much pops right out of there. There's a little latch that goes underneath that little cutout right there when you put it back in there. You just got to move these out of the way, and it will fit back down in there like that. You got to squeeze, sometimes pull these out so they get around the bracket when you put that back in there like that. And make sure that bracket's down, make sure all the buttons are up and sitting flat, and put the screws back in it. So here we go with the space bar, and it's loose. And it's just got, let me see if I can get this side out. There we go. So it's just got these little slots, openings on the space bar, and they just fit in this little corresponding little tab dealies. But sometimes these get bent a little bit. They can get bent down, get bent backwards. You can bend them back where they need to be if they're bent. But they should just kind of be in this position here. And then let's just put this one side back on here. So we'll just stick this on. Just kind of line that slot up with that guy. You get it, it kind of fits kind of snug. So it's right there. And since you can't really push down on it, best thing to do is to put a screwdriver under here to hold that bracket, so it's got some support, and then just line that up, slot right there. Okay, so there it goes. Let me get it back on there. Seem to be missing it. There it goes. And same thing on this side. Kind of dark down there, it looks like, but so you can see that little bracket. It should almost line up. If not, you just gotta manipulate it into place. There, that one went in pretty smooth. And just hold the bottom of that bracket so it doesn't move with the screwdriver, and push it down tight. And make sure this one's back on there. Make sure it's tight. All the way down. If it's on there right, this should be just about level. This gap right here. Yeah, see, that's pretty level. If it's up on one side or the other, make sure it's in those brackets all the way. You can look and see with some lights that they come all the way, the bracket is all the way on that shaft as far as it will go. And if that's right, that's the way it goes. But now the trouble is, this is still loose. It still wants to see it just flop right back out. So you need to put a drop of super glue. Just one drop. One drop right in the slot. Or one drop right on the tip of this. One drop there, or one drop right into that slot. But make sure before you put super glue on, make sure it's lined up and you can get it back onto place, because the super glue will set right away. So when you get the super glue in there, make sure it's ready to go. Maybe do one side, put a drop on this, one drop. Don't let it run down into the machine anywhere. Have your screwdriver ready, have it lined up, and then stick it on. Push it on tight. So one side's done. Same thing as the other side. So you can move it out of the way a little bit like this. And you can put one drop right there. And then get your screwdriver ready like this. Stick that one on and push it down. And that super glue will pretty much work right away. And if everything's good, we got a line up here, and we can plug it in and try it. Okay, let me get the cord here. And we'll turn this guy on. In fact, you maybe should try it before you glue it. Go ahead and put it in there without glue. Make sure it's not binding or anything. And put the lid back on before it's set, and make sure this lid, get the lid all down here, make sure it's got the same gap from side to side. See, it seems a little high on this side here. See that? It's looking like it's a little high. And I also have to make sure there's a gap back here, so when it's working, it works. So this seems a little high right there. See how maybe that should be down closer like that one. So you can take the lid back off and just kind of push that side down a little bit like that. Those metal arms will bend pretty easily if when they're forced. And that's the trouble, they get bent kind of easily from just about anything. So that's a little, I got that a little lower. So that's a pretty good match now. So that looks good. And side to side looks good. So take this off, turn the machine off, take it back out, put the glue on there, support it. Stick it on there like that. Make sure it's down tight. Same thing on this side. There we go. I didn't glue this one because I'm still going to service the machine, and I'm not going to glue it until I'm done, but that's how we do that. And to put the back together, of course, just put the lid back on. Sometimes you got to spread these with your fingers and make sure they get around that bracket. Make sure all the buttons are lined up. The front pivots are in place. Push these things so everything is up on the keyboard, and then there should be no gap right here. So we got to manipulate this just a little more. Just one more. It's got a little. Oh, there we go, right there. So now it's flat, and that screw should line up pretty much. Screw that back in there. There it goes. Just tighten it down. Doesn't have to be super tight, but tight. And here's the other one, and it's flat over here. So let's put this screw back in. That. Sometimes you gotta manipulate this a little bit to find where it lines up right. It's right there. Make sure it's flat. Tighten it down. Now this top lid is a little tricky. Like I said, these brackets flip around. They're kind of loose, but they should be about in that position there. And the one screw goes on that side, and this pin protrudes through the other hole there. The screw goes in that one, that little pin goes in that one. It should sit flat against the back here when everything is good. So when it's in this front position, put this top lid back on. And you can kind of see that bracket down in here, right there. It's right there. It's got one opening for that little pin to go into. And it's usually when the lid's up here in the front like this, kind of. And then you can just kind of feel where that slot is there with. There, it just fit in there, and then squeeze it together a little bit to get this side to fit in that other corresponding pin. There it goes. Once they're in there, you'll see you can move this lid, and it slides pretty easily in those brackets, just like it is, and it stays in there like that. So you can get both those in there like that. And I guess this is the tricky part. I'll show you how I do it, but this has been a learned process. I would take my hand and push this bail back. With my thumb and finger here, I'm holding the rod and the lid, and I'm manipulating those brackets with my fingers. And then I can squeeze this together right here, that bracket and the lid, flip it on its back, and screw it in. So I'm squeezing this, but that's a pretty tricky way to do it. So I would recommend just what we did to take it off. As that lid's in position, put some rags in here or something like this, so we can put it back on its back again, like that. Now, let's see if I can get some light in here. So now you got to move this rod down. See, this bracket's kind of flopping around here. You got to get that behind it. Flip that little bracket up so it's in the back there, and it's just about in position there. Now, it's a little tricky to get that lid back in there. But once you get it behind there and that bracket where it wants, the best thing to do is to line it up, that hole, with something like a piece of paper clip or a rod. You want to put it in the screw hole and manipulate it so that pin falls into the other hole. See, it's not in place right there, but just keep manipulating it. Put your lid up, push this back down a little bit, pull the lid up, push it down, like this lid is need to push this, there we go, get it all the way up like that. Okay, flip this little bracket up like that. Flip that one up. Flip it back into place there. That's a little better. And stick your screwdriver in that screw hole, or this little pin thing, and manipulate that bracket till it wants to sit flat against the back. And this one is being a little trouble here. Let's see if I can get this to fall into place. Doesn't want to, oh, there it goes right there. So now it's flat, you can see it. It's flat against the back. And when it's in that position, that screw will go back in there. And go ahead and put that in and just snug it up. Don't need to tighten it all the way. Just make sure it's threaded like that. So it started, and then move to the other side. And then unplug this. Reach in. There we go. So that bracket's flipped out of its place there. So you just got to manipulate it behind that bracket right there. Like I said, stick something down in the hole where the screw goes, and there, it lined right up, and the back is flat against the back. And when that happens, the screw will fit right in there, and we'll start, and we'll be able to, right there, it just fits right away. If it's not lined up, it won't fit right away. Tighten that one up, come back over here and tighten this one up. That, and if everything is good, pull this out. As long as in that process we didn't knock these out of its brackets, it should close nice and smooth. This is a little tricky. I make it look kind of easy, I've done it 1,000 times, but when it's all good, this is good. It's back in place, and Spacebar is back in order. But it's pretty common for these to pop out after years, decades. So that's how we take the top lid and faceplate off this and work on that spacebar a little bit. Alright, Phoenix Typewriter, good day.